Rock of the Marne, 3rd ID. My name is Sergeant Argenis Nunez, and I'm here today with Command Chaplain Chip Huey, Colonel Chip Huey, and Lieutenant Colonel Beavers, David Beavers, the Garrison Chaplain. And today we're here to discuss the services that are available for our soldiers, their families, and the overall 3rd Infantry Division community. Not only are we taking care of ourselves physically, but our emotional and mental health is critical to getting over the hump of this pandemic. And clearly across the board, it's been a challenging time for everyone across all branches, across the world, really. But I really want to get an understanding of the services you gentlemen are offering here to support our community, which needs it in such a great time. So go ahead and introduce yourselves. Add any info that I may have forgotten, gentlemen.
Well, Sergeant Nunez, again, my name is Chip Huey. I'm the Command Chaplain here. And Chaplain Beavers and I are very grateful for the opportunity to have the chance to share what all we offer to the Marne community for their spiritual resilience. You mentioned the importance of emotional resilience. We think in terms also of spiritual resilience.
Yes, sir.
And that's what we're all about. And we've retooled our programs so that we can offer them digitally, so that we can be reached by everyone throughout the Marne community through Facebook pages and other means. And so Chaplain Beavers will give us a little bit more specifics on specifically what services we do offer. But just know that we are still available 100% for everyone throughout the Marne community, Green Suiters, family members, DA civilians. We are available for them still. Counseling, our religious services are available digitally, and we're out there as much as possible with Ministry of Presence, given the circumstances of social distancing and all of that. But Chaplain Beavers can tell us more about the specific services that we offer.
Oh, Roger. It's certainly been a unique time. We're not alone as Army chaplains, and what we deal with is a lot of local church congregations. In fact, as this was coming down the pipe, speaking with our community clergy when they were looking to do online services as well. We were benefited. 3 of our services already did have live streaming that they would do in conjunction with their normal worship services. So thankfully, them, along with some of our maybe a bit less ranked, but significantly better in technical skills. Chaplains and religious affairs specialists have done great work helping us come into the maybe early 21st century, not quite to where we are and y'all would be with your PAO actions and stuff, but getting there. Quite a lot of our folks, for instance, from our traditional service, we have a lot of Soldiers for Life who attend, and several of them mentioned they've now entered the information superhighway so they can continue to worship with us. Neat opportunities that we do have. Optimally, we would gather and fellowship. That is a key component with a lot of worship. But because of mission dictates, just like downrange, we adjust what we do based on the mission. We do the same here. That being said, we've been able to leverage Facebook to not only live stream, but in other cases to pre-record and then post at the actual time that the normal service would take place. So we have 6 services, counting the Stations of the Cross, that we are currently live streaming or pre-recording and sharing. It's been a blessing actually getting out to over 1,400 folks a week for the last 3 weeks that we've been getting this information out and some good viewership. Definitely pleased with that. We'll confess a little bit more than we have attendees, so hopefully it's not just somebody looking at their own sermon and clicking on it many times, as someone accused me of doing once, but truthfully glad to have the opportunity to share. That being said, we also have some low-density communities that have their own internal Facebook groups. So, for instance, our Open Circle folks, as well as our Muslim soldiers that gather, do have the opportunity, as they are still continuing to congregate, able to share, continue their worship, and for all of us to continue to be in prayer for our nation, for our leaders, as we are united in facing this COVID-19 and seeing what the future holds with us all.
So overall, the only thing that's changed in this system is the physical presence. But it still sounds like the community is making a concerted effort, and you as well, as chaplains, a concerted effort to meet in the middle, still make that connection. And that's something that across the board, you know, you may hear it in passing, or you may see it from a distance, just in the general language of the people, but have to believe that that's making a strong impact. It's adding to the resiliency across the board, because a lot of people remain confused. Why is the military, why is the Army still engaging in day-to-day work? Now, while we've slightly shifted, we're still essential, and these are the kind of services that we need. I wanted to ask you, in terms of the mental health for our community. I know this is spiritual guidance, but it branches off into so many aspects of the day-to-day life of our soldiers and our community members. What specifically, outside of your sermons online, what else are you guys doing? How are you engaging your audience?
Well, one great example is that our youth group, which is open to any youth throughout the Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield community. Our youth group still continues to be very active, though online. Sunday night they had a virtual scavenger hunt. My kids, I've got kids who are teenagers. They were running through the house, screaming, finding stuff, dragging things off the shelf. All trying to win the scavenger hunt that was being done via Facebook Live. And so we do things like that. Our Family Life Chaplain is still available and is in the process of putting together some online programs to help work with the new pressures of marriages that marriages are experiencing. All of a sudden, the soldier's home all day. Whereas, they used to get a little bit of a break from one another. Spouse would be at work or at home, and the soldier would be at work. Now they're all there together, mom, dad, kids, the dogs, everybody's there together in the house, and that can at times become a little bit of a pressure cooker.
Yes.
And so our Family Life Chaplain is available online. He's available for counseling, live counseling over the phone. And he's also in the process of putting together some pre-recorded programs that he's going to have to help folks in those kinds of situations. Another thing that I think is very important is helping people stay on rhythms. And this is Holy Week. And not just for Christians in Holy Week this week, the entire month of April and going into May, there are a lot of things that are happening that are holy days, high holy days in a sense, for several different religious groups. The Buddhist New Year is on 9 April. The Jewish observance of Passover is 9 to 16 April. Of course, like I said, Holy Week for Christians with April, ending with Easter rather on 12 April or 19 April for the Eastern Orthodox folks. And then Ramadan for our Muslim community begins 23 April and goes to 23 May. So helping faith-filled folks throughout our community stay on their regular religious practice rhythm is an important way to provide some normalcy that you think in terms of the sermons and the worship services, but there's a rhythm to life, and this keeps that rhythm somewhat normal in a very abnormal time. Sure, I've missed some stuff, Dave. Any thoughts?
Sure, I think you said that very well. Remember, Matt has mentioned early on, of course, overall prayer, worship together, praying for our community, turning to God in the midst of all the different challenges, praying for our medical personnel, our DES workers, those on the front lines in what we're encountering. So power in prayer, and as we're thanking the various denominations and various religious groups, to the extent that they have prayer or are thinking of those in positions of leadership. Of course, as we have the groups that come together, we have not just the sermons, but quite a few small groups within our different chapel congregations that really can be supporting one another, even if it's not directly face-to-face. Sometimes just in the middle of all the challenges you run into, just the, hey, thinking of you, little message popping up or a text popping up from someone letting them know that they care. And one of the great things that we have with our Marne family is that folks actually care about each other. That our congregants do see that we're in this together. We have our faith and trust, but in the course of operating that way, we want to be there supporting. So want to be, somebody once said, anybody can throw away a stone. It takes a craftsman to be able to build something out of it. So the goal of our folks then to not just be taking care of themselves, but also thinking of ways they can support each other. Now, it might not be a tangible physical thing, but we also are in conjunction with supporting the Army Community Service as they're looking at trying to solicit some different volunteers that they have. Definitely getting word out through some of our different channels, whether it be Protestant Women of the Chapel, Catholic Women of the Chapel, some of our other organizations where they've solicited some assistance at some of the local, at Wynn Army Community Hospital, at the PX, at the commissary, definitely rolling up our sleeves and doing our part. So being prayerful folks as well as working folks, so two hand in hand.
Yeah, and one other thing that we've also got is we have now contracted with this group called Right Now Media, which is a platform, a resource platform, particularly for the Christian community, of Bible studies and sermon series and all kinds of other things, and that this resource will be open for all of our chaplains, and then whomever our chaplain gives, these chaplains, battalion chaplains, give permissions to come and join. It's a vast resource of Bible studies and things like that online that are available for folks. It's just a great way to help people reconnect spiritually, because we have a tendency to kind of forget about that aspect of our lives quite frequently. So, and then we've got a few other little volunteer ideas that we've not quite solidified just yet, but they're still hashing them out. They're on the way. Maybe a blood drive or two or something along those lines.
So would you gentlemen say that there's been an uptick in outreach for guidance, or I want to say, I don't want to say spiritual, because everybody perceives perceives faith differently. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody can say, there are Gnostic folks out there as well as the main religious as Christianity and Muslim. But would you say that overall, with the way things are now, you're receiving more calls, more outreach on your social media platforms or your different channels for some guidance? Hey, I'm having a tough time at home. Things of that matter?
Well, you know what? I think to accurately answer that question, we would probably need to pull some more information from our battalion chaplains, because they are out there where the rubber meets the road with our community. Our chaplain captains and our chaplain majors, they're the ones who have far more interaction with everybody out there in our community than we do. I think I can give you an I think answer, not a definite answer, but I think we are experiencing that. I think our battalion chaplains are experiencing that, but I don't want to say 100% for sure. I know that our activity level here at the chapel with our programs, even though they're virtual, has not backed off any. So we've certainly not had a dip.
There's a consistency.
Yeah, at the very least.
And how have you all been empowering the service members who, a lot of them, they have, well, for all of us, really, we have the weight of this change on us, because it's like, okay, we got to focus on our duties. We have to focus on keeping this train going, but there's this just giant monkey on my back where there's a level of uncertainty with our family. What are you guys focusing anything specific towards the service members? Just, this is for our guys and our men and women in uniform. This is what we're doing for them. Anything like that, sir?
I'll toss that one to you, Dave. I've been hogging the conversation.
Oh, quite all right, sir. One of the things that we do find emphasized from every one of our services online, you can go back, relook on things along those lines to see, but is a perpetual message of hope. In the midst of whatever we run into, we all have hope.
Yes, sir.
And that is something we work to instill in the soldier, the family members, the authorized civilians, those that are perhaps the family member that click on to see what's going on in their loved one's worship service. Maybe they plan to come visit, now they can't, but are able to click on virtually and see what the service would have been like if they were able to attend. Mm-hmm. And that emphasis of hope, that we are united together in this fight, that we are not alone, that for us as people of faith, that God is ultimately in control. And for all of us, whether we're currently wearing the 3ID patch or previously worn the 3ID patch,
yes,
that we are all one big family working to support one another. And that has been, I think, one of the more interesting things to see. Situations can tear you down, and they can help build something new. And definitely seeing a lot of good newness being built, reaching out across this virtual spectrum, getting connection ties in, taking a look at some of the demographics of folks who've clicked on even worldwide, worshiping with us. Our folks here being able to share a worship experience with the folks in Europe over for the missions that our CAB folks and our Second Brigade folks have over there. So it's interesting that, in a sense, as we draw closer to God, we draw closer to one another. So definitely our focus, our emphasis on hope, on teamwork, trusting that God's in control, and then doing what we can do within our own power to make a difference for the positive versus simply making a difference for the negative.
And I think, too, it's important to go back to something I said a moment ago that's specifically addressing your question regarding services that are directed specifically at green suitors.
Yes.
Is that our battalion chaplains are still there. Mm-hmm. They are still present. They are still conducting their religious support mission, which is based very heavily in the Army on something we call ministry of presence, and that is a chaplain being there. A chaplain is out there with his or her soldiers, under normal circumstances when they're doing PT, when they're in the field.
Yes,
the chaplain's out there. He's with the staff when they're nugging it out through some long staff meeting. Well, in this instance, our chaplains are still there. They may be wearing a mask, they may be social distancing, but they're still there and very much involved in the lives and the work of their soldiers who were there during that particular shift.
Yes.
Since we've gone to sort of a minimal manning posture, our chaplains, though, are still present for that one-on-one or one-on-3 or 4. In the motor pool, when a soldier strikes up a conversation with the chaplain with a question or two, and a couple other soldiers come and gather around just to get in on the conversation or to listen in, they're still there. And we will never, ever, ever drop that. That is the bread and butter of what an Army chaplain's all about. And so that ministry of presence and being available for soldiers, for green suiters specifically, will never stop. And so thus, they're still there when soldier is perhaps maybe having newly arisen marital issues due to the confined space.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
He can still or he or she, that soldier, when they go to work, their chaplain's going to be there. And if their shift doesn't coincide with when the chaplain's going to be there, they can leave a note. Just leave a note on the chaplain's door. Mm-hmm. And the chaplain will call or make sure that next time that soldier is on shift and is there, that the chaplain's there to talk with them. They may have to be 7 or 8 feet apart with masks on, but they can still, talk through whatever's going on. So we'll never, ever drop that, no matter how digitized we are. I don't see us going to chaplain avatars anytime soon. So we'll always be there for our soldiers.
Wait, we don't have the sleeves yet to get that far.
Right, exactly.
But have either of you noticed, have either of you thought about how this might change physical presence in the future once we've gotten over the hump? Do you believe that this will have a drastic impact, or it'll be business as usual? It's just turning off the phone and coming to service?
I think, and Dave, please feel free to jump in. My thinking is that this will simply broaden or enhance the tools in the chaplain's toolkit. I think we will go back to the traditional bread and butter of chaplain ministry, which is ministry of presence, religious rites, sacraments, and ordinances, particularly in the field, when you're out there with your soldiers, making sure that, if you're a Protestant chaplain, making sure your Catholic soldiers, your Muslim soldiers are taken care of religiously. We'll never ever lose that. But I think that, in fact, we had a chaplain at the chaplain schoolhouse who did a paper a few years ago on what will religious support look like in 2025 and beyond. Yes. And his thoughts and his research indicated that chaplain ministry is still going to continue to look much the same. The means of delivery may be enhanced a little bit by digital stuff, online platforms, but that you cannot, there is no substitute for the physical presence.
Absolutely.
And so I think perhaps maybe our ministry may be enhanced by a newfound familiarity and comfort with digital platforms.
Yes, sir.
But I think that the heart of it will still remain the same of, a chaplain and a soldier sitting there and interacting physically.
No, I would agree. I think it would definitely be an enhancement. There will be changes because anything that occurs will provide changes. But just like on the battlefield, there was always something regardless of what's going on post-conflict, making it through a conflict with someone, things along those lines, that joy in their heart because of that connection. As human beings, we're hardwired to desire that connection. I would see with the wider aperture we have with our virtual services, perhaps that allowing some folks who are maybe a little reticent to take a look at the worship, able to click on it, see what it looks like, find out, okay, I'm watching this and my monitor didn't just explode, so maybe I can risk going to visit the service because we don't have a single chaplain out here that's trying to bite anybody. So the desire when all this ends then would be for folks to find that time to come together, to realize, truth be told, when you realize you're not alone in your faith and whatever that faith expression might be, to realize there are other people like you and to find that support, that is just somewhere at the core of who we are as humans and something we need. So definitely see this as a way to reach more folks. It will be something I believe will end up continuing, even some of us that maybe are more of the traditional worship style. So for me, a camera being anywhere near my worship service was an anathema, but not that bad nowadays.
Getting used to it.
I am still have a face for radio, but glad to have the opportunity to reach out to folks. So I think, again, being able to cast that wider net virtually, and then folks to see what they're getting into. So they're not just coming in the doors, what's it's going to be like they've been able to see for maybe a Sunday or two. Okay, this is how the worship goes. Let me come in, let me give it a shot. The building will not collapse when they come in, and then able to be there and find hope, find a meaning.
Yeah, I can remember as a chaplain captain, a lot of senior chaplains, this was 20 years ago, would just absolutely, the idea of having a camera in a wedding service was just, they weren't going to do that. We're going to tolerate that.
Keep it away.
Exactly. I think that mentality, if there were any vestiges of it left today, is gone. And so I think particularly our up-and-coming generation of chaplains and religious affairs specialists will be far more creative in the utilization of digital means to enhance their ministry.
And has I say here, the chaplain staff here on post and at half, have you already begun discussing your outreach for, hey, when this is all said and done, we've gotten over the hump. Let's get together again. Let's start congregating once more. But I'm talking like down in the road once we're over this. Have you already begun discussing that?
Would be plans for how we'll come back together, some of the different events when we get back together, but then also plans, so it does tie in with what you're saying, how do we continue and not just staying put, but as with everything we do in the military, how can we continue to make better our virtual services? Right now, some are just the simple camera in front of someone speaking. What can we do when we take this next step, and then we have the complete worship team, the praise team, the other folks involved? Are we working to get more added to the sound system so we don't have just one stationary camera, but for instance, with Stations of the Cross, we're not able to go around from station to station. Right. Our next step with that would be by Lent to be able, if we were live streaming, as well as folks attending in person, knock on wood, the services next year, then to be able to actually follow the priest from place to place, so continually moving forward. So taking what we've had, building upon it, but then also as we come back together, some of the way forward, everything from just the simple logistics of paper towels and bulletins to making sure, who would schedule what when. So, yes, I've been looking forward to that day.
Yeah, and I think, too, also a great example of that is Chaplain Kim over in the division chaplain, Chaplain Kim, his team, Master Sergeant Joe Bouchard, Sergeant Robinson, Chaplain Robinson and Sergeant Mallard, they have begun thinking in terms of, okay, what's our training plan going to look like when we bounce back to some degree of normalcy, given that that's probably going to be a progressive dynamic. Getting back to normal is going to take time, but they're already thinking about what's our training going to look like then? What are we going to do when we can bring everybody back together? How can we take some of the digital skills that we've developed to enhance that training? So in answer to that question, particularly over on the division side, they have begun to talk about that in depth at this stage of the ballgame.
Planning ahead. That's what we do best in the Army. And what would either of you say to someone that is still, even today, even though we have access digitally, still a little hesitant because of whatever uncertainty lies within them, to reach out to you all for spiritual guidance, for someone to talk to? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say to them first that we are, we're in the Army, and we're it's always, I'm a little reluctant to use this word, but it's true. We are a safe place for a soldier or a family member to come and to talk. We provide confidentiality, and when a soldier or a family member needs to talk to us, they can come to us and talk, regardless of their faith or lack of faith background. Doesn't matter. We will talk to any soldier whatsoever, and it's confidential. It is safe. We are a safe place to come and talk. We may try to nudge them, advise them in a particular direction,
right.
As far as getting some other help. We're also very quick to realize when we as chaplains, when a presenting problem is something where there are other resources need to be brought to bear.
Yes, sir.
And in that case, we may try to gently nudge the soldier, the DA civilian, the family member in the direction of those other resources. But still, that conversation is protected. It is it's a safe place for them to come and talk. So I would say that and I think any chaplain has always said that we are available. If they need to talk to, in concrete terms, our on-call duty chaplain number is on our Facebook page. It's Fort Stewart Half Religious Support Office Facebook page.
It's also on the app, sir.
Yep. Okay. It's also on the app, and the on-call duty chaplain number is right there. So if it's after hours and they want to talk to a chaplain, they can call that number and talk to the on-call duty chaplain. And again, doesn't matter if a soldier, is a card-carrying atheist. Doesn't matter. Chaplain is going to take time to talk to them because they are a soldier in the United States Army and a human being, and we want to be a safe place that they can come and lay out, what they want to with us. We're not going to be shocked. We're not going to, we're not going to blow them off. So we're there and available.
We are bound as chaplains by 100% confidentiality. So the worst that someone's out is a little bit of their time. So if they're willing to give a shot, not sure if this is a chaplain-related issue or not, then we're at least as I said, a safe place where someone can ask. I used to always say when I was a battalion guy, if you don't like my accent, you don't like my haircut, or you don't like that I'm a Cowboys fan, at least give me a chance to find you some assistance. So if we cannot help, we will help them find the assistance. You got foot pain, you go see your family doctor. If it's more severe, they get you to a podiatrist. You have something going on, something not quite clicking right, something not feeling right. What do you have to give a chaplain a holler? Just give them a call, see what's going on, send a message, things along those lines, and we are there to help, whether it's in the middle of a COVID-19 or whether it's on a future day from now when everything's bright, sunny, and fantastic. We remain ever ready to assist our folks.
And we do try to minimize the number of Cowboy fans in the chat. So realizing that's a big
try to convince them, listen,
exactly.
maybe that's not the right way.
Yeah.
We got you, sir. Yeah. And what recommendations do either of you have for soldiers, their families, our civilian contractors as well, to continue working through the stresses that COVID-19 has pressed upon us?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I think I'll go first, then you hop in. I think that I mentioned a moment ago rhythms. Obviously, I come at this from a theological perspective. I believe that God created us in His image. He created this universe with structure and order, and you look at the creation narrative, by days. Mm-hmm. So I think that we are hardwired to be people of structure and consistency. So as much as possible, if a family, and a soldier and his or her family, can maintain structure and consistency during this period. Get up at, don't sleep late. Mm-hmm. Get up at your regular time.
Yes,
have your PT. With kids, they do school at a certain time. Just try to structure your day as much as you can per the norm. Now, of course, obviously, from a pastoral point of view, what I would say to that is that you've got to build time into your day to spend time with God. I think that, obviously, from my perspective, as I said a moment ago, we're made in His image. And as Augustine said, there's a great big emptiness inside of us that can only be filled by God. And that when we're filling that emptiness with something else, it ain't going to work out too well. So carving out time each day in a regular structure.
Yes, sir.
For your life, and particularly from my perspective, also to spend that some time with God, seeking Him. I think that is critical to getting through turbulent times like this. Dave, any other?
Sure, would agree wholeheartedly with that. I mean, definitely looking at when we're on our own, when we get isolated, which can easily happen with this, whether we're isolated as an individual in a barracks room without a roommate, or whether we're with a group of folks, even a family, can be very difficult. A lot of times people can face the difficulty if I were here and I turn around and I'm trying to get out of the room, all I see is a wall in front of me and nowhere to go. You have a different perspective. You can say, hey, sir, don't mean to be rude, but 8 feet, 10 feet to your left's the door. If you just go that way, you get a different perspective. So
right.
If folks are facing that point where they just don't know what to do, where to go to, where to turn, what is difficult, I mean, we say it enough, we got to mean it, though. Getting help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. So being willing to reach out, whether it be to that battle buddy, the squad leader, platoon sergeant, chaplains, folks are there to help. Be brave enough, strong enough, have courage enough to reach out if things are not working out, not working well. Be bold enough, brave enough to seek that assistance.
Yeah, and I think that the corollary that goes right along with that is not only the schedule and being the structure mm-hmm. and being willing to reach out is community. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're trying to get after with all of our digital outreaches now with our worship services, is to try to, as much as we can, build a sense of community within the confines of isolation and social distancing and things like that.
And one of the big questions that a lot of folks tend to forget is very simply, how are you guys doing? How are you guys coping with this with this mess of a world we're in? Excuse me. So.
Well, what I said a moment ago, I had this conversation with my family 2 weeks ago on Sunday night, was the importance of us maintaining a family structure and rhythm.
Yes, sir.
And by God's grace, we've pretty much been able to do that. My teenagers were pretty disappointed to hear that I was going to be getting them out of bed each morning at the regular time, and my daughter, my 23-year-old daughter, who's back home with us temporarily right now, was also a little dismayed to hear that Dad was going to, be walking around and getting people out of bed.
Yes, sir.
The Hueys have continued to do that. And have continued to try as best we can to maintain a structure, chores around the house, everybody pitches in, and then in the evenings, our family devotional time at supper. We sit down to supper together and eat together and have our devotions, our family devotion. And then personally, I, of course, carve out time for my own devotion and just find the opportunity to pour out to others and to lead through this time period, something that's also very fulfilling. So, again, thanks be to God. The Hueys are doing well right now. But, we have to work at it just like anybody else.
Yes,
so,
appreciate you asking. Do know math very well and statistics, so my wife is not my better half. She's my better 90%. So very much blessed by God to have her at home. Family life great. As I said earlier, I'm the guy that If I saw a camera coming into my worship service, would probably think you must be looking for someplace else. So I'm learning. I mean, Palm Sunday was yesterday. I think I was accused with having some of the palm fronds around my podium of being in a duck blind. But getting there and learning. So the technology aspect.
Or preaching from New Guinea, one of the two.
Well, yes, sir. I've been elsewhere with so it's been technology's been the big challenge. But as I say, good to at least come into the current century instead of others. So that's been the good to be broadened, good to be stretched in that regard, and then realizing that is a key way to reach other folks, as said. And so that has been, truthfully, been a blessing. So we can look at stuff that happens and we can bemoan what's going on. We can say, oh, I wish things were the way they used to be. Well, currently this is how things are, so what are we going to do now? How are we going to respond? And that is our challenge. And interesting to face these cameras and things along those lines that have not had to do, but slowly getting more comfortable with them.
But, thanks for asking that question. I appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir.
And that's a question that we senior folks will have to ask our junior chaplains and religious affairs specialists as we continue on through this and as we begin to come out of it. That's another thing that emerging from COVID-19 that we in particular will have to do is go into those chaplain captains who have been on the front line, those religious affairs specialists, or, junior enlisted soldiers, go into them and saying, how you doing? How have you made it through this? How is your soul? Mm-hmm. And which is the ultimate question, how is your soul?
Yes.
And so I think it will be incumbent upon us to be asking our people, that our chaplains and chaplain assistants, that is, religious affairs specialists, that as we come out of this.
It's incredible what this has done on the positive side. There aren't many of them because it's been so intense, but we now have the time to really learn about ourselves in the current climate across the board. And that's a big one. You might be surprised at the answers you get back. Well, sir, I'm doing all right, but such and such thing has happened, and you're just going to think to yourself, wow, I didn't have that issue when I was younger or when I was a junior soldier. We finally have a time to reflect. And joining that reflection with our community, with prayer services, or even just the individuals, our seniors that we seek to have conversation about this and how we're dealing. It's a big deal. It's changed our trajectory. For the better part, I would say. But
that's a good point. Very good point.
From the bottom up, top down, we're all thinking in new ways. Yeah. And it's just great to see just how we're coming together. There's really it's like an obstacle course. Mm-hmm. We've just gotten another giant pillar in front of us that we got to get over. Yeah. So you might hear that in different words from a lot of the other juniors. Yeah. But overall, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to add? Any additional thoughts? Something that you would like to push out to the Third ID community?
Well, I'm sure Chap Beavers has got Facebook pages and things like that to put out, which is very important. But I just, from the broad, big picture, I just want to say we are your chaplains and religious affairs specialists in 3rd Infantry Division and our tenant units, wherever we may be, whether, we're in Poland or other parts of Eastern Europe, here, wherever, we are available. Mm-hmm. We are still on the walls, standing guard, religious and spiritually and morally out there. We're still available, and we're going to be seeking new platforms to be able to reach out. But we are still available as always, and we're there for dog-faced soldiers and their families.
Okay. There is a religious need, religious concern, faith expression. Folks are looking to tie in with that community. Please do not hesitate to get in touch with me. Any of the staff here through our Facebook page can do that. Information for our Facebook page is in the Marne message, as well as on the Fort Stewart Hunting Army Airfield Facebook page. Our specific page, all one word, so not quite with the 21st century when we named it, but all one word spelled out, Fort Stewart, then HAF, no space, HAAF RSO, for Religious Support Office. So Fort Stewart HAF RSO is our current name. Guess we could have made it a little bit more complex, but don't know how we could have. But we exist to serve and want to help out. Of course, with Holy Week, we have several opportunities of worship for our Catholic folks. Of course, that will be virtual and a live stream, and have posted, and our message just about an hour ago shot out. That information will come out again. We have it posted several locations when folks can, here's my ignorance, whether you say tune in, turn on, whatever it is with the Facebook, which I was not on until about 3 weeks ago. And same with our Protestant folks. We'll have a Good Friday service. And then, of course, Easter sunrise at 07 will be posted, and then our normal worship services on Sunday. But do appreciate y'all's time. I'm glad to.
And a lot of many of those worship services and congregations have their own individual Facebook pages.
Yes, sir.
Our Catholic community is Our Lady of Victory, I believe.
And we do have those links.
Yes, yeah, we've got all those links on our page. Our Lady of Victory for the Catholic community, Chapel Next for our contemporary Protestant community, Grace Gospel for our gospel service. Hunter Army Airfield Half has their own page, Chaplain Derek Murray over there with his team. So, and then on all of these, we have hung links to other resources, for our Jewish soldiers and families, for our Muslim soldiers and families. We have links there that they can use and go to.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much for taking the time out to speak with me and the Third ID community. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Between the Rock and the Dog Phase podcast. Tune in weekly to receive your updates on the 3rd Infantry Division's fight against COVID-19. Rock of the Marne.